All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. We're catching our breath on this show on a Monday. Of course, across the counter from me, J.D. Sharp, and in-studio guest as he joins us every Monday, radio personality Chris Wynn. Had a little fun today, by the way. I went on Las Vegas Country Club. They unveiled their new statue there, and Oscar Goodman and Carolyn Goodman showed up, and it was a great little event. Chet Buchanan, our friend Chet, was emceeing the event. Great food, great time. Played a little golf with Ron Futrell. That was a lot of fun as well. And it was just a good day, fun day of golf. A lot of history, by the way, at that golf course. Oscar Goodman, who was, of course, in the movie Casino, had to mention that today. And he said, yeah, this was the movie where Spilotro, he was playing golf with his buddies on that course. And it was actually that golf course. I've heard that it was that golf course where the plane lands from the FBI, lands in the water. And Oscar said, if you don't believe it, we got pictures of it in the Mob Museum. That's what he said. It was kind of cool. That course has so much history. So many gangsters back in the day played on that golf course. Some of them probably are still members there. A lot of them have passed away. But what was his name? Rosenstein, the guy, or not Rosenstein, the guy who plays, or De Niro plays that guy in
Ace Rothstein? Lefty Rosenthal was his name.
Rosenthal. He also lived on that golf course, and I didn't know at one time Oscar Goodman lived on that golf course as well.
He actually made me interested in sports handicapping.
That's a great
His character in Casino actually made me interested in sports handicapping.
And wasn't the house, Brian, that was in that movie when Spilotro threatens the Irish banker in the when they're having a cocktail there? I think the house was actually on that golf course too.
That was a great scene.
Yes.
And
well, I'm a sucker for statues as well as really good food, but I slept till 3:00 today.
Well, that's a tough life.
I missed out on that event.
That's a busy day, my friend.
I'll tell you one person who didn't sleep till 3:00 in the afternoon today. It's probably UNLV head coach Marvin Menzies. So they had another game over the weekend. It's against Fresno State. I told you what a great coach I think Justin Hudson is. He was our assistant coach for a few years and left and decided to go back to San Diego State. And I said, man, this guy's going to be a great head coach one day. I said that like 5 years ago. Well, he took over Fresno State. Not shockingly enough, they are one of the best teams in the Mountain West Conference in year one. Do they have a few seniors? Do they have a few guys that can play? Absolutely, but nowhere near the best talent in the conference. And they are probably going to be one of the top, not probably, I think they will, the top three teams in the conference. When it's all said and done, I think it's going to be them or Utah State that's going to play Nevada in the finals. So anyway, we had a game over the weekend. Well, we didn't. Marvin Menzies did. UNLV playing Fresno. Fresno, their defense and their perimeter defense was unbelievable. Let me just give you guys a quick example of what I'm talking about a great head coach. And look, say what you want about Marvin Menzies. I've never seen this from Menzies. I'm sitting behind the Fresno State bench because I enjoy watching the other coaches, their game plan. Almost every single play in the first half, UNLV was their offensive net was in front of the Fresno bench. Every single play that Hudson looked and saw either a point guard call out or Marvin Menzies call out, he immediately screamed out who was going to get the ball. I'll give you an example. UNLV calls out a play, and Hudson screams out, double pick, Clyburn top. That's all he says. He yells it. 6 or 7 seconds later, they set a double screen for Clyburn, and he gets the ball top of the key, and his players were in his face. So I'm talking about a scouting report. I'm talking about that is what a great coach does. He knows the scouting. He's got a great staff, and UNLV, I think they shot for the game. They shot horribly from beyond the arc. You know why? Not because they just simply weren't making shots. It's because Fresno was in their face on the perimeter at every single possession. Anyway, long story short, I wanted to give that story out. They absolutely blow out UNLV. In no way should UNLV be getting blown out at home under any circumstance to Fresno State, in my opinion. I don't care who's coaching that team. UNLV had no answers. Marvin Menzies was outcoached. But that's not the thing that's getting a lot of UNLV fans upset. It's the comments, once again, that Marvin Menzies made after the game. He made a comment about the officials. He said, as coaches and players and officials, we need to get better. He had to throw that in there because he didn't like the officiating. But it gets even worse. He said, quote, we have a great system in place, but our players need to embrace it. So he is, in a way, throwing his players underneath the bus. A lot of people had a problem with that comment. I have a problem with that.
I'm awesome, and my players need to realize just how awesome I really am and how awesome my system is. Marvin, you just lost by 18 points at home.
And JD, can we also say the last four of the last 5 games they've lost by 17 or 18 points?
In the last 2 weeks, you've lost 4 games by more than 17 points.
It's unacceptable, Chris.
You're 3-28 against opponents in the top 100 since you've been at UNLV.
Which is really bad.
You've had 5 times more losses by 15 or more than the last 3 coaches before you.
Right.
In 3 times less the duration.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be discouraging for the UNLV Running Rebel fans out there, given what they're able to do. You go to Boise State in that matchup, you shoot the lights out, right? I mean, offensively, they're just spectacular. They're able to, rebound the basketball, get back. I guess if you want to describe it, kind of get back on track, right? And then you go back to, and play a game. It's not like you lose in a close, tight one against Fresno State at home, where they just happen to have better talent and a better coach and a better game plan and a better scouting report, as Brian pointed out, and you lose that game by 2, 3, 4, 5 points. That was not the case. You went home and you got blasted by one of the better teams in the conference. So now you're on this kind of seesaw thing going on, and inconsistency is not really, that's not really an indication of what you have talent-wise. It's what your coaching staff and the impact
the
that
team
your coaching
isn't
staff
super
has
talented
on this team. And now you're back on the seesaw, and look, they got to come strong tomorrow night. Obviously, there's motivation given what happened up in Colorado Springs in the matchup against Air Force in the first matchup. So there's going to be motivation. But this is a very inconsistent team right now, and I think that's what is added to a lot of the uncertainty with this program.
The team isn't overly talented, and he knows that. And there's injuries, but the problem is how he's handling it. He's blaming other people. He's making excuses. He just say, hey, it's the 3rd year. We've got a lot of injuries. I'm not doing a great job, coach, but he's not doing that. He's trying to save face. And how do you save face when you lose 4 games by 17 points in 2 weeks? You can't. And one thing I thought was interesting, you mentioned how Coach Hudson was so prepared for the game. And said, when Clyburn caught that ball, he said, hey, Clyburn at the top. When we watched Musselman coach here,
same thing.
He had every single referee's picture on a poster on this board right next to him.
It's called being extremely well prepared.
Exactly. That's what good coaches do. Marvin Menzies, you are not a good head coach.
Well, let me say this. I think in a certain circumstance like the WAC, I think perhaps he could be successful again. I've said this time and time again. I don't think he's the right man for this job, for this UNLV job. And, to say, well, he's a terrible coach, well, he's certainly underachieved here. I'll say that. He won at New Mexico State, but he also never won an NCAA tournament game, and he never beat a top 25 team. So, there's good and bad at New Mexico State, if you ask me. He's recruiting the same way here that he recruited in the WAC. You can get away with that in the WAC. It's not going to happen here.
I mean, he picked up the number 10 player in the country last year. Brandon McCoy was a bigger. It's not like he's recruiting poorly. He just isn't a good developmental coach.
I don't think he's recruiting as well as he can. This is UNLV basketball. It should be a lot easier to recruit here than Colorado State or New Mexico or San Diego State for that matter, or Nevada for that matter. It should be easier to get players here. He's just not doing it.
In all fairness, Nevada's had quite a few transfers. Both the Martins are transfer
kids. That's part of recruiting.
Trey Porter's a transfer. I mean, they've definitely taken a major. Now they picked up Jordan Brown, the 5-star last year, but they've had a lot of transfer success.
But I don't think it's crazy, guys, to say that there shouldn't be this separation that there is between Nevada, Reno, and UNLV when it comes to a talent standpoint, when it comes to a how good these teams are standpoint. There is absolutely no reason one team should be number 6 in the country. And UNLV is sitting not even sniffing anywhere near the top 25, and that's something that gets a lot of people here in Vegas fired up.
3-28 against top 100 teams is that is an unbelievably bad stat.
I agree. Let me open up the phone lines to this, and we got a couple more minutes here. Let me ask you guys this question: for those of you that think Marvin Menzies needs to go, I want to hear from you. I want to know why. For those of you that are defending Marvin Menzies and thinking he should come back for at least another year, I want to hear from you as well. I want you guys to make your point out there. We got a few minutes left in the show. Welcome to call in. The number to call in, 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. I'll tell you something we're never going to do on this show. I'll tell you something, Chris, you don't do, JD doesn't do, I haven't done in 20 years on the air. I've never kissed anybody's butt. I always tell it like it is. And unfortunately, there are other entities, I will call them, in this city that just don't speak the truth on the air. They just don't. And why is that? Well, I don't know. I think there's a couple different types of reasons why. I think number one is perhaps some people are afraid of the university. Maybe they have ties with the university. Maybe it's sponsorships, what have you. I don't know. And maybe the other reason is maybe some people just don't know anything about basketball.
You know what? If we had a $100,000 UNLV sponsorship, we would say the exact same thing.
I would be honest.
Why would we change our approach?
Yeah.
We want a better product.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I'd be honest.
Well, here's the thing. Honesty is the best policy when you're talking about sports, in my opinion. And look, I have no allegiance to UNLV whatsoever. I'm not someone who's a fan. I'm not someone who grew up loving this program. So I can take a step outside and make an observation, just about the program. And the way I see it is that the writing is on the wall. And Brian, you brought it up, and JDU as well, that, you say what you want about Marvin Menzies, whether you think he's not the right guy for I just don't think that he is going to be here come the 2019-2020 season. He's not going to be the coach. So, you start to take a look around and see what are the best options for this program going forward.
And if he thought he was going to be here, would he be making these ridiculous excuses? Why can't he just save face and just admit that he's not doing a great job this year? His team is no. So he's going to say, "Well, I've got this great system, and they're not buying into it." I mean, Amari Hardy last week, literally, we've talked about this multiple times. Amari Hardy, now that he has this losing culture that Menzies has basically instilled into his players, said, "Hey, at least we won the second half by 8 points." What kind of an attitude is that for a sophomore starting point guard?
You are who your players are. Your players
Exactly.
are who you are, vice versa. And I agree. And I was shocked to hear Amari Hardy say that. I thought that was the wrong thing to say. And then Marvin Menzies doubled down on it and said, we're into small victories. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but he said something like that. And it's just, it's getting a little bit ridiculous now. The excuses are getting a little bit over the top. He refers to his players as babies. Noah Robotham is a senior last time I checked. Chris Clyburn is a senior last time I checked. I know Houston went down, but he is a senior. He had a junior last year in Houston. I mean, he had JoJo, a senior last year. He had Johnson, who was a senior last year. What happened last year? What evidence would lead you to believe that he is going to take this team not only to win a Mountain West Conference championship within a year or two, but to get into the NCAA tournament, win a game, something he was unable to do at New Mexico State?
Is this a small victory program?
It shouldn't be.
A national title was won 30 years ago.
Danny Tarkanian was in here.
This is not a small victory program.
No, it's not. Danny Tarkanian was in here on Friday, and we did talk a little politics. We mixed that up. But I love the point he made about UNLV basketball. And he's pretty honest. He has no allegiance to UNLV after the way they treated his dad down the stretch there. He made such a great point. And you remember this, JD. He said, I'm so sick of these fans. I'm sick of the fans that are talking about, well, we need to get back to the NCAA tournament. You know what he said? He said, we should be trying to get to the Final Four. This is one of the storied, winningest programs in basketball history. I couldn't agree with Danny Tarkanian more. Now, that's not going to happen overnight based on the mistakes they made.
How many teams have won national titles in college basketball in the last 50 years?
Not many.
20?
Not many.
15, 20?
Not many at all. And look, to me, this is the essence of the entire thing when it comes to me talking UNLV basketball, JD and Brian. It's that the expectations should be absolutely elevated with this program. And yes, I 100% agree with Danny Tarkanian. How are they not every single season expecting to be in the mix and when it comes to the NCAA tournament, the big dance every single year? They're in a I guess you can call it, it's not really a mid-major conference. It should be one of the major conferences in college basketball.
Well, they should be in the Pac-12.
Yes, but you understand what I'm saying, though. As a program, that should be your expectations. And I mean, Final Four, I mean, let's be realistic. In recent, 10, 15 years, that's not something that's been real viable, except for maybe the year obviously that Kruger took him to the Sweet 16. But other than that, I mean, but they still, yes, you should have those elevated expectations, and they're nowhere near that. And we're talking about a program that's just saying, oh, we need to get to the tournament one year. I mean, it's actually laughable.
Air Force tomorrow night. UNLV is favored by 8.5 points. If they lose this game, I don't think they will.
I don't think Air Force, they turn the ball over a lot.
They also gave up.
Again,
Air Force destroyed them at Air Force, though.
UNLV is going to have a tough time against very athletic guards. Air Force doesn't have athletic guards. They're big. They're big, turn over the ball a lot. They're going to have to make a lot of threes. UNLV should win this game. Are they going to cover the 8.5? I'm not certain, but they should definitely win the game.
They gave up 106 points to Air Force a month ago. I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow.
And guys, we're 2 weeks, 2+ weeks removed from that. The only difference is a change of venue. So I mean, look,
I wouldn't take UNLV.
We analyze basketball all the time, but there has to be some kind of major adjustment from a mental standpoint, right, for the Rebels to come out and just handle this game.
I haven't handicapped the game at all, but I'll take a look at it. But just off the cuff, they should definitely win the game, if not cover the spread.
I do think that it's kind of a payback game, so I'm kind of with JD on this one.
Yeah.
I think they probably win by double digits. Look, guys, I'm just putting a hypothetical out there. What if they lose tomorrow night? Do you fire him on the spot? Probably not, right? But I mean, what if he loses to Air Force in front? By the way, how many people are going to be in the stands tomorrow? If you only get like 3,000 for Fresno, can you imagine with the 7:30 game tomorrow night? Quickly, how many fans are going to be there?
I'm going to say 2,300.
I would say 35 to 3,600 people.
I think
that's my
C-Win's
call.
being generous.
Yes.
Very generous.
I would
And
say,
you know why? It's because it's a Tuesday night.
And despite the fact that there's a lot of good food options there, I can't keep saying this enough. There's great food options. There's TVs everywhere.
Those big fat pretzels, JD loves
Thompson
them.
Mac is a nice place to watch a game and go to a game.
yeah,
It really is.
it is, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the food options. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. Ken Thompson's going to be coming up next. Check us out on Twitter at The Vegas Take. And speaking of UNLV hoops, very familiar name coming on the show tomorrow. Todd Simon, the head coach of Southern Utah, former UNLV interim coach. A lot of questions for him. Thanks for joining us, Chris Wynn. Always appreciate when you come in, my man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. The legend himself, Ken Thompson, coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take, all new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.